This is the third webinar of the IMS-managed ACB series, and today we are going to talk about how BMC AMI Fast Path products and utilities can help you transition to the IMS-managed ACB environment. So today's speaker is Aditya Srivastav, and I'll let Aditya introduce himself and take on the stage. So Aditya, over to you.
Thanks, Subhashish. Good morning and good evening, everyone. Uh, Welcome to our third webinar of the BMC AMI Data for IMS webinar series. My name is Aditya Shrivastava, and I work with BMC Software for some time now, and I work with their IMS team, specifically with the IMS Fast Path team. I'm a senior product developer there, and I'll be majorly talking about fast path databases and how we support them in the managed ACP world, basically. Okay. So, all right, we will see the agenda for this session, basically. So we'll quickly touch upon what are different fast path utilities. We call them BMC AMI Fast Path utilities, and then we see how these utilities basically work in the managed ACB mode. Basically, what is needed there. We look at a couple of keywords we have, like the catalog alias keyword, the sys ds and hlq keyword. Okay, let me get that place open. Okay, then we will touch upon the catalog definition exit, that is DFS 3CDX0, and the proc lib remember DFS DFXXX. We look at what are the default directories which gets read in our utilities, and how can we change that default behavior. Then we see how a typical, let's say, an analyzed job, it runs in an ACB live environment versus how it will run in a managed ACB environment. We'll also look at how other utilities will work similar to analyze what other utilities work. Then we take some use cases basically on if I'm making a database change using some type of offline way, example unload and reload, and how it will work in the ACB live environment and then in the managed ACB environment. And then we look at if we want to make database changes using some type of online tool, which is basically our BMC AMI restructure tool, and we'll look at it basically in the ACB live and the managed ACB environment. Okay. So talking about quickly touch basing on the BMC AMI Fast Path utilities. So as a DBA, basically, the most basic utility is initialize, which is used for initializing a database. So that your simple area data set, so I would say a simple vSAM file becomes an initialized database. We have the initialize utility. Then we have for monitoring the health of your databases, we have a tool called analyze. Okay. Then analyze tells you about the health of your database, and after running analyze, typically either you take no action or you might want to take some actions based upon some reports. You might want to reorganize your database to reclaim some free spaces. You might want to make some changes to your database. Okay, and if you're okay to take that database offline, then you might go with unload and reload, which works hand in hand together. Or you might want to use a change utility, which is nothing but kind of combination of unload and reload. Then we have tools called extend and restructure, which are basically used for making some changes to the database online. Okay. And then we have a number of utilities which support secondary indexes. Okay. Resync here, it only supports BMC's PFX indexes. The rest all supports all type of indexes, that is FPSI and PFX. And then we have a number of other utilities which are really helpful for a DBA. Okay. I have named them, a few of them: extract, DMAC, print, process area, and then we have others as well, which I have not written down here. So these are all, or I would say majority of the FastPath utilities. Okay. And there are several ways we can categorize them. I'll not go into the details of those, but we might want to see, how these utilities can be diversified based upon if they run offline only, or they run online only, or if they can run in both online and offline mode. And this is important to understand to get a whole crux of this session today. So if we talk about only offline utilities, the majority of these are initialize, unload, reload, and change, and then build utility, which are they only execute in offline way. Then we have our fast path restructure utility, and remember that there are certain other functions along with the restructure function, which work with restructure, but I have not listed out all of them here. Restructure is an only online utility. You only run it online. And then there are certain utilities that I would say most of our utilities, they work both in offline mode and also in the online mode. Now, why it is important to understand online and offline for the sake of this session is because when I'm running online in a managed ACB environment, the application control blocks which are needed for running these utilities, we get those application or runtime control blocks from IMS. We call IMS, we read their control blocks, that's it. We don't care from, I mean, obviously, if we are asking IMS to provide us the control block, those has to be the latest or the, your current or active control blocks, okay? We don't care about where it is coming from, basically. But when we are running offline, then it is our utilities responsibility to identify from where to get those control blocks. And when I say from where, it means that you might want to read from the active directory or you might want to read from the staging directory. And then there can be a number of different directories based upon the LES names and all those details, right? So identifying that becomes very important. And in the next slide, we'll basically look at the BMC AMI utilities, fast path utilities, what they need to execute in offline mode when running under managed ACBs. Okay. So the most important thing which you need when you're running offline is basically we need to identify the alias name, right? The catalog alias name. And why do we need to identify that? Because alias name is used to form the high level qualifier, right? HLQ. Once we get the HLQ, okay, we build the name of the bootstrap dataset, that is the BSDS, and the BSDS is used to identify the directory, right? Your active directory and the staging directory, right? So it depends that what information you already have, and based upon that, you start at one particular box in this, in this part basically. Now, how you get an alias name using the BMC utilities? We have several ways, okay? And one of them is by using the catalog alias keyword under the options, um, PFP options rename. And in this, you provide the alias name, okay, directly. And once you have the alias name, okay, you basically have several ways to get the HLQ and move ahead. And we'll look at it in more details in the slides to come. If I'm not providing the catalog alias name, the second option will be that I provide the catalog definition exit, that is DFS3CDX0, in my load step left concatenation, so that load gets picked up, and within that we define the alias name basically, and we can get it from there. Okay. The third will be that if both of these options are not working, then we might want to read it from the DFS3 XXX proc live member, and that's what I'm calling as a IMS proc live member. And from there, I can go under the catalog section and read get the details I need. And if none of them I am providing, then the last option is that it will try to go in search in the recon. Oh, okay. And since I don't know the alias name, specific alias name, the default alias name which will be searched in the recon will be DFSC, right? And once we have the alias name, we'll get the HLQ from there, and we'll move ahead to get the BSDS bootstrap dataset name, and then we identify the directory. Okay. Now there is also another keyword called catalog underscore sys DSNHLQ, and this keyword, if you know about the entire high level qualifier, then you just provide that qualifier via catalog underscore sys DSNHLQ keyword, and once you have the HLQ, you get the BSDS name and you get the directory information. So this is the complete snapshot of what we do in the offline utility. That's what we do exactly. Okay. Now, how exactly we process each option, we'll see in the slides to come. All right. So let's look at the catalog underscore alias. or the sys tsn hlq keywords, what happens in this? Okay. So the catalog underscore alias, this keyword is used like catalog underscore alias equal to IMS1. So when I do that, that means that I'm telling you that I'm telling my run that the alias name is IMS1. So once I have the alias name, the tool will try to find the MD alive, and within that MD alive, it will try to locate the IMS1 HLQ member in it. Why IMS1 is because this IMS1 comes from this alias name. Okay, it will try to locate this IMS1 HLQ member in the MD alive, and if this member is found, then okay. If this member is found, then that means I know that my HLQ is present in this member, and I'll get the HLQ from it. Once I have the high level qualifier, I'll build the BSDS, that is the bootstrap dataset name, and I read the directory. Okay, whatever directory I want to read, staging or active. Okay. But let's say if I don't find this MD live, member in it, then what will happen? Then it goes and it try to check, in DBRC if there is an entry for IMS1 alias name or not in it. If you find the entry for IMS1 alias name, then you get that HLQ, and then you follow the same process. That is, you build the BSTS name and you read the directory, same as you were doing earlier. Okay. But if we don't find that entry even in the DBRC, then that means there is no way for that particular alias name we can find the high level qualifier, and hence I cannot reach the directory dataset. So I have to basically fall back to reading that from the ACB live. That's what we do in our product, in our offline products right now. Okay. Now this path, this thing, this is basically same in all the in once we have the alias name, this is what we try to follow in any case, right? I mean, we'll see in the options to come. This portion you will see it's kind of repetitive, right? Because in other options also, it's just the priority which changes, but the whole I would say the procedure which is there in the background, it's this, okay? And we'll see that. All right. But let's say catalog underscore alias name also have another a different value which you can say, and you will use that value only when you want to reach from your ACB live directly. So you have your you have your managed ACB environment set up, you have the directory datasets and everything is there, but you still have your ACB lives there, and you want to read from the ACB live. You don't want the catalog to be used at all. Okay, you can use a special value of catalog underscore alias name, that is catalog alias equal to none, and this means that you read the ACB live directly. Okay, so it goes and read the ACB live. Okay, so you can keep using your ACB live in your utilities job, and it will just access that ACB live directly if you're using catalog alias equal to none. Okay, so this is about the catalog alias. Now, if you are aware of catalog underscore, sys, if you are aware of the high level qualifier, then you can directly give that high level qualifier under catalog underscore sys tsn hlq. And once you do that, the high level qualifier is used to identify the BSDS name and read the directory. All right. Moving ahead, we see basically there are two other options, which is, and I'm covering two options in single slide, just so that because most of the things are similar, they are very interlinked. So we'll see how the utilities behave if I have not given catalog underscore alias name or the catalog underscore sys dsn hlq, but I want to use the catalog definition exit or the proclib member name df sdfxxx. Okay, so my utility will call dfs3 cdx0, that is the catalog definition exit. Okay, and then the code checks, okay, if the ACB management is catalog or not. If it is catalog here, then go and get the alias name. Okay, how will it get the alias name? It will go and it will go and based upon the alias name defined in DFSC CDX0, it will try to find the MD live member, alias name, HLQ. similar to how we were finding IMS1 HLQ in one of the previous slides, right? And if that member is found, then okay, build the BSDS dataset name and then read the directory dataset name. But if this member, MD-Live member is not found, I have to go and check DBRC for that alias name. Okay. If the entry in DBRC is found for that alias name, then yes, you have to go and use that HLQ and build the bootstrap dataset name and read the directory, same as it was doing earlier. But if you still don't found in the DBRC, then you have to fall back to ACB Live because there is no way to identify the alias name. All right. Now this is about uh, this process here when you get some type of alias name from the exit. But what if ACB management is not equal to catalog in the catalog definition exit at the first place? Okay, if that's not the case, then you have to go and check the proclive member df sdf xxx. But this proclive member is only checked when you have given in the options command df sdf keyword. Okay, it's a keyword we have recently added, and the value of this keyword can be something like df sdf equal to, in quotes you have to give, let's say 123. All right, and so the member name becomes df-sdf 1123. It will the utility will try to find df-sdf 123 in your proclive dd statement. Okay. Now let's see if you find in your in your df-sdf, you have found your df-sdf 123 member, and you have seen that the section for the catalog, it has basically that member, sorry, that proclive member, it has ACB management as catalog, and if it is catalog, okay, get the alias name and go through this route, same route which you have gone earlier. Go and check for the MD-Live member. If it's found, build the BSDS name, read the directory. If it is not found, check in DBRC. If found in DBRC, again build the BSDS name and read the directory. And if it is not found in DBRC, then you have to fall back. Okay. But if the ACB management is not equal to catalog, then you have to go and read recon with the default alias name, that is DFSC. Okay. You try to find the default value for the HLQ and try to build the default value for the BSDS name and identify the directory dataset from there. All right. But if basically, and again, okay, going back, let's say if this SDF, you have provided the catalog definition exit, but the ACB management is not catalog there, but you have not provided the DF-SDF options command, then what happened? Then it directly goes to read recon with the default alias name, that is DFSC. Okay. So basically, this is how we try to locate the directory name using our offline utilities. Okay. All right. So a lot of things have been covered till now. So quickly, we'll see what we know so far with respect to the BMC AMI Fast Path products. Specifically when they're executed in offline mode in managed ACBs, we know that alias name and the DSN HLQ is the key to identify the bootstrap name and the directory name. We know that there is a keyword called catalog underscore alias, okay, which can be used to directly provide the alias name. We know that there is another keyword called catalog underscore sys DSN HLQ. It's a different keyword, okay, and it can be used for directly providing the high level qualifier. If you don't want to provide these details, then you can always provide the catalog definition exit DFSCCDX0 in your step left concatenation. And if that is not present, or if you don't find the relevant information there, then you can always provide the DF-SDF XXX member's name using the DF-SDF keyword, okay, where it goes into that section equal to catalog, in it identifies the information from there, brings the information from there, right? If none of them matches, then obviously the information from the recon will be read at time, okay? And we have seen the order in which it is done. Okay, so we now look at what, now we know that there is an active directory and there is a staging directory, right? And there are certain utilities which will directly go and read from the active directory. There are certain utilities which might be checking staging as well, and then and as a user you might need to change the default directory it reads. So we'll have a look at it now. All right. So what all tools by default reads from the active directory? Those will be the initialize, analyze, reorg, extend, extract. Okay, all the indexer tools, the collect. Okay, path collect, process area, PFP sort, DMAC print, all the utilities. So most of the utilities, before I go there, they all read as by default from the active directory. Okay, so if I just understand how, let's say, analyze will run under managed ACBs in the offline mode, then that way is all applicable to all of these other utilities, because the default for them is active directory. Okay, that's why in one of the use cases we'll cover in the slide to come, I have only covered analyze there, because that same theory will be applicable to the other tools as well in a generic way. Okay, now talking about what other tools are there, which by default might not be reading from the active directory. Okay, and those are unload, reload, change. Okay, these are the offline tools for making some changes to your database. Okay, and then we have the restructure, I would say, suite, which also includes shadow, init, and prepare function. And there are two other functions, status and backout, which I have not written here. And all these basically they also access the staging directory basically. And why staging directory is needed in these cases when you are making some changes is because when you are making a change to your database, there will always be two versions of the databases, right? One is the existing one and one is the new one. So for example, if I'm adding an area in a database, the new definition I call the one which has one added area in it, and we'll see in one of the examples ahead. Okay, so we have a matrix. We have created a matrix. Hope the text is not too small. We have created this metric, which is part of our documentation as well. And in this matrix, we have listed all the utilities we have. Okay, for example, let's say the analyze, and in the ACB live environment, it reads from this DED name IMS ACB. Okay, and the default directory for analyze is active directory, right? Okay, and if I want to change this default, if I might want to read from the staging directory, and there is so we have added a keyword called catalog underscore directory, and catalog underscore directory currently can accept two keywords, staging or active. And if I give it at staging, this tool will read from the staging directory and not from the active directory. Okay, and I'll talk about that in a while. Then we have initialize, reorg, unload. Okay, I'll talk about unload in a while because it's a part of one of the use cases we'll cover. So this list, I mean, you can always find the list from the documentation, but yeah, this is a list we have with the tool name and what is the default directory. It will be active for most of them, and then catalog underscore directory keyword is applicable to most of them except from the one where you make some changes like unload, right? Okay, moving ahead. So basically now we come to that point that now we understand that how in the offline mode we identify the particular directory from where we need to read the control blocks. We know a way to control if I want to read from the active directory or I have to read from the staging directory. And we know that there are certain tools which access both the active and the staging directory. Okay. And now we'll do a comparison of how some of the utilities how they execute when they run under ACB live environment versus how they will be running under the managed ACB environments. And we'll only take few cases. Most of the other utilities, they'll fall in one of the other categories. Okay. So let's look at how analyze runs under the ACB live environment first. Okay. So this is analyze, and under the ACB Live environment, it will be reading a DD name called IMS ACB, which has the ACB Live, defined with this DD name, and whatever is the control block with respect to that ACB Live, analyze will use that uh, you know control block, and it will do its work. Basically, it will run a lot of health checkups, and comes up with a number of reports which the DBA can use to see if the data what's the condition of the database, right? Now, same thing in the managed ACB environment. Okay. Now, what happens in the managed ACB environment? Analyze directly reads the active directory here. Okay. Active directory is basically what is the we call as the directory IMS is using, basically, right? It's keeping it up to date, and analyze will use active directory, obviously, because that's the best directory. Basically, that's the best. You will find the most accurate control blocks here, right? But when I'm running in ACB Live environment, I have the liberty of going in this analyze job and changing this IMS ACB, right? I can go and I can change IMS ACB. I might want to give my own ACB Live into it. I might have, I might want to check the same database from some other library, let's say the staging library, ACB Live staging library, or some other library. So I can just go in this and change the that DD name, IMS ACB DD name, and whatever comes first in the ACB Live concatenation, analyze will read that control block, right? But that liberty is not present here. So what we do, if I want to read the control block not from the active directory, right? So I can use that keyword which I have explained which I have briefly touched upon in the previous slide. I can use that keyword catalog directory equals to staging, right? If I give this keyword in my job, it will, instead of reading from the active directory, it goes and reads from the staging directory. Okay. So this is a keyword which is used for controlling, or I would say used for changing the default behavior. By default, analyze reads the active directory, but this keyword helps analyze to choose. Basically, you want to read from the staging, you give staging. You might read from the active, you can read from the active, right? Okay. Now, similar to analyze, there are other tools which works exactly in the same way. Okay. When I say same way, it means that they also utilize the IMS ACB DD name, and they also read from the active directory in managed ACB environment. Okay. What are those? Reorg, extend, extract, initialize, all the indexer utilities, and we have seen several other utilities like DMAC, print, VFP sorts, etc. Those as well, right? If they run offline, they'll read the control block definition from IMS ACB Live. You have the liberty to go and change that IMS ACB in ACB Live environment, but in managed ACB environment, this is the keyword which will help you on this. Okay. Catalog underscore directory keyword, it has two values, catalog underscore directory equal to staging, or you can also give catalog underscore directory equal to active, right? We are actually continuously working on enhancing these, the support in managed ACB, right? As and when it's needed. And right now we are working basically on, so for example, if let's say for example in analyze, if the user has given catalog underscore directory equal to staging, currently it will go and check in the staging directory, and if the control block is not found, it will just end with some type of message, right? But what we are working on in enhancement, that if it's equal to staging and if the control block is not found in the staging directory, it should by default fall back to, I would say it would go and check in the active directory to get the most accurate control block from there. Okay. And this behavior we are right now working on, and it's about to get completed. Okay. Okay. Let's look at an example where let's say a DBA want to make some database changes in the offline mode, and they are using unload and reload product, basically. Okay, so we'll first see how that change is done in the ACB Live environment, that is the traditional environment. So unload it it reads the control block from IMS ACB the way it was doing in the previous slide, right? So your current or your the current definition of your control block is in this IMS ACB ACB live, okay? And let's say you want to make some changes to an area, you might want to make some changes to the UW parameter, right? So what will you do? You will make those changes in your source and you will run dbd gen and you'll do a psb gen and acb gen, okay? Once you do this, you will stage them into your acb live, and you will provide that acb live using this dd name new acb to unload. So unload has access to two different control blocks. One is the existing control block and one is the new control blocks, where and you want to change your database definition to this new control block, new ACB, right? Now once unload runs, it creates an unload file based upon the new control block, and after unload you run reload, which read this unload file, and it read this new ACB control block, new reload case for the new control block, okay? And then it loads this, and then it creates this new area data set, which then with the new definition, basically your new database, right? Now let's see how this is in the managed ACB environment. Okay. So in the managed ACB environment, you have the unload tool, okay, and your Active Directory has your recent current control block, right? The one which is there in the IMS. And since you are making some changes here, you have done dbd gen, psb gen, acb gen already. You will run catalog populate and directory load to load your new definitions, and I would say stage your new definition into this staging directory. It's pending activation now, okay? And you read this new definition from the staging directory by default. So unload it, first go and check for the new definition in the staging directory. You don't need a keyword for that, mind it. It's the default behavior it has, okay? So now we know that in managed ACB environment, by default, unload reads the new definition from the staging directory. So you have to stage it there. And the existing definition, obviously, it's in the active directory, right? Unload does its work. It creates an unload file, and then you have to run reload, which reads this unload file, okay? Now, before you run reload, there are two possibilities, right? You might have your new definition might still be in the staging directory, right? And you want to run reload right now before you move them, before you run commit to move them into the active directory, or you might have already run commit and activated your control blocks in the active directory. And now you want to run reload, right? Possibilities are both. I think most of the user prefer to run it from here. So reload, it goes and basically it first checks in the staging directory. If it finds the new definition in the staging directory, okay, that is you have not imported into the active directory, it reads this new definition from the staging directory. What it was doing here in the new ACB, in the ACB live environment, same thing in the managed ACB environment is done from the staging directory if the user has not ran import already, and it creates your new database, okay? But in case the user has run import and he has refreshed its the content of active directory, the reload basically it will get those definitions from the active directory. So how reload works is basically it first checks the control blocks in staging directory, and if it is not found, then it goes and check in the active directory, okay? So active directory when the new ACBs have already been imported into the active directory. All right. I hope it wasn't that confusing. You don't need any keyword for that. Okay. Obviously, sometimes this part, right, the unload part, sometimes we only run unload just to create an unload file. We don't really have any need to run reload because we are not making any changes to the definitions of the database. We just want to create an unload file. At times we do that, right? And if you are doing that, unload basically it first checks in the staging directory. If it doesn't find anything in the staging directory, it refers to the active directory for both uh, the old definitions and the new definitions. And since they both pointed to the same place, that means you don't want to make any changes to the database definition. You just want to create an unload file. Okay, that's how you can create an unload file in the managed ACB environment. Okay. Um, all right. Hope I'm clear. There is no questions on this. All right. So we have seen. So okay. Before we move ahead, so till now we have seen that how a typical tool it runs a a typical user basically they run a tool like analyze or a reorg or extract, right? Which only refers to one control block. There is only one control block, and that control block is what the IMS has. Okay, it's in the active directory. So we go and read the active directory in the managed ACB environment. Okay, but we do have requirements where we don't want to read it from the active directory and we want it to check the staging directory instead of the active directory. So for in these applications, we have provided you a keyword called catalog underscore directory, in which you can specify what particular directory we want to read the definitions from. Okay. Second use case, we saw that when you are making some changes to a database, right? Now, a database change can be done in two ways. One is by using offline utilities, and the other one is using online utilities. Okay. When you're running offline, you have two ways to do that. One is by using, unload, reload product, and the other is by using the change product. Okay. Uh, uh, so obviously, when you use unload and reload, I mean, this is basically I have in the previous slide. If I quickly go back, we have seen that we have created a new definition, and this is offline right now, right? After this, I will use some type of product like BMC Delta or Delta Plus product, that is Change Manager for IMS-TM, or we might have some other vendor product like Online Change, and we'll refresh the control blocks in IMS using those products, right? And then basically once we uh, start, because those control blocks need to be refreshed because the definition has changed as per this staging directory, and then you run those tools and it refreshes your control blocks. After which you bring your database online to start using it. Okay. Now, another way is obviously you might want to make some changes to your database by using some type of tool which runs online. Okay. When you are running the tool online, obviously uh, it reads the existing definition from IMS, that is online, but it reads a new definition based upon some type of DD name which you have in the ACP Live environment. We'll look at it. Okay. So this online tool which you can use for making changes to your database is basically it's BMC AMI online fast path tree structure. Okay, and this product is basically a it's a combination of running three different steps or three different products called prepare, shadow init, and restructure. Okay, now the prepare, it's the first step you run, and what it does, it reads your existing definition. I'm talking about the ACB Live environment first. Okay, I haven't mentioned that. This is what happens in the ACB Live environment. I'll talk about the managed ACB environment in a couple of minutes. So in the ACB Live environment, it reads the existing definitions from the IMS ACB, you know, um, DD name. Okay, or basically it read it from the IMS where you're running. Prepare can run in both offline and online mode. It basically uses the IMS definitions and reads the existing definitions from there. And then you want to make some changes, let's say to the UW parameter again. So you have done DBD gen, PSB gen, ACB gen, and you have created a new ACB live basically, which has a new definition similar to how we were doing in the unload and reload, right? And prepare reads this new definition. It does its magic in the background. Basically, it creates a plan file, okay, which I have not shown in this presentation. It's not the topic for today. That's why. But it creates a plan file. That plan file has the plan. What changes are you trying to make? Okay, you are making changes to the UW parameter for 5 areas. Okay, plan file has that information. Okay. Then after prepare, you run shadow init step. Shadow init step, because the way restructure works is basically it uses a concept called shadow data sets, data sets, which is area data set, which has which are created using new definitions. So basically, shadow init will use new ACB. It is kind of similar to how initialize runs, okay? But it initializes the shadow data set based upon the new definition, which is there in the new ACB live. Okay, and also it also reads the plan file. Plan file is a very important file which prepare creates. Shadow init also refers to the plan, and then that plan is also read by the final step, that is the restructure step, and restructure step reads several other files. Plus, what is our area of focus here is the control blocks, right? So restructure, it reads from the IMS, the existing control block, okay, and it reads from the new ACB, the new control blocks. Okay, that's how it runs in the ACB live environment, right? It's a typical case which happens in ACB live, right? It's easy to understand, right? Restructure wants to know what is your existing definition. IMS helps it. Okay. It also wants to know where you have kept your new definitions. Where is the new values of UW? New ACB has that. And then it also accesses the plan which the prepare step has created. And then it works on its magic, and it uses the data sets created by shadow init process as the primary data set. Basically, it makes those changes online. So this is how a restructure works, right? You want to make some changes to your let's say, as we have said, UW parameter in multiple areas. Restructure can be used to do that in ACB live environment this way. Okay. Coming to the managed, okay, this is the new database. Coming to the managed ACB environment, what happens? Same process, right? Prepare, okay, it will refer to the existing definition, but from where? Using the IMS, right? So those definition will be in the active directory, right? Okay. Now, obviously, we have done DBT gen, PSB gen, and ACB gen, and after this, we'll run catalog populate and the directory load utility, and we'll stage the new definition into staging directory, the pending activation state, right? In the staging directory. And prepare reads these new definitions from this staging directory. And then it creates a plan file. It will pass on the control, not pass. We have to run shadow init after prepare. Shadow init also reads the plan file, which obviously I have not shown here. But the new control blocks, shadow init only cares about this new control blocks, which in the managed ACB environment, it gets from this staging directory like this. Okay. And then shadow init, it creates the shadow data sets and pass on. And after this, we have to run restructure, which uses the plan file. I should have shown the plan file here. It uses the plan file from restructure, and with respect to the control block, it accesses the active directory to get the old definitions or existing definitions. I'm not calling them old yet. These are the existing definitions. The new definitions, obviously, that the staging directory over here, it gets it from this, and then it creates your new database. When I'm saying it creates your, new database, means it has a mechanism to make your shadow data set as your original data sets. Basically, it will do that. Okay. So I think that was most of what I wanted to cover as part of our utilities. And as a quick summary, I'll just run it once again because I've covered a lot of things in one session. When we talk about managed ACBs and utilities, fast path utilities, they can run online, they can run offline. Now, when you run online, you ask IMS for the control blocks, right? Your DBG control blocks, PSD control block. You ask IMS to give that, and IMS provides you that. You don't choose their staging or active there, right? And when you run your utilities offline, when your IMS is up, but you want to run offline, then you have a choice to read it from the active directory or the staging directory. Now, the utilities are designed by default. Most of them read from the active directory, but there is a keyword catalog underscore directory which can be used to control if you want to read from the staging directory. Okay, and we are working on some type of fallback mechanism which will be added in the support soon. Now, there are some utilities which are used for making, let's say, changes, and there is a need for accessing two different control blocks by these utilities, like old control block and the new control block, or existing and the new control block. And in that case, the new definitions, it expects those new definitions to be in the staging directory by default. Okay. If it is not found in the staging directory, it goes and check in the active directory. Okay. Now that does not happen in the read structure. That happens for unload, reload, and change. Okay. And then comes your online way of making those changes, restructure, which also works in the similar way. Basically, it expects the new definitions to be in the staging directory. Okay. Now, this is about choosing a staging in the active directory and how it reads them. There can also be a situation. I mean, obviously, when your utility is running, it needs certain certain values which it uses to identify the exact data set it wants to read, to I would say, to identify the bootstrap data set, which becomes your way to identify your active or your staging directory. And for identifying the bootstrap data set, you have to create that high level qualifier for that bootstrap data set and add a BSDS at the end. For that high level qualifier, you need to get the alias name, right? And that alias name can be present in multiple places based upon the preference of the user, or where they how they have planned their managed ACB environment. There are several ways you can use you can run BMC's fast path utilities, and it involves by using a keyword called catalog alias. It involves or sys ts and HLQ directly, catalog underscore sys ts and HLQ. You also have an option to use catalog definition exit, TFSCC DX0, or you can use the proclive IMS proclive member, that is DF SDF XXX. And at the end, if none of these is what you want to use, the last and the default way is to go and check in the recons what entry you have created. And if none of them is present, then it goes and it try to locate those control block in the ACB live. That is, it fallbacks to the ACB live. Okay. All right. I think with that, we'll come to the end of our session. This is a QR code for managed ACB supports technical bulletin. I think you might have seen this in previous sessions as well. And I'm open for any question or if you have. Okay, right now.
Hey, Aditya, this is Steve. The way I understand it, you have 3 different keywords you could specify with the options command. To use the proclive option, you would need to use the DFSDF keyword.
Yes, that's right.
To get that suffix.
Yeah.
I know that's new, but
XXX suffix, right?
Right, exactly. The keyword is DFSDF.
Yes, the keyword is DFSDF, and with that you have to, if your that suffix starts with a numeric, then you have to provide in quotes like DFSDF equal to single quote 151, and if it's starting from an alphabet, you can provide it directly DFSDF equal to ABC. Then it uses that DFSDF ABC, builds that name of that member, and it tries to locate a proclive DD name in your JCL. If it finds the proclive DD name, then it tries to locate this member, Steve, there in that proclive library, and it from within that proclib library, it identifies if we have given ACB management equal to catalog, and it goes and locate it the same way basically. That's a new keyword we have recently added in one of the recent RSLs. Yeah.
Right. After working with this stuff a lot in the last few weeks, I would strongly recommend the catalog definition exit method.
Yes.
To me,
yes,
it's the cleanest. That with the dynamic allocation member for the high-level qualifier for the bootstrap data set. I was going to say, then after that, the only thing you'd want to do, maybe if you want to turn it off, you could say catalog alias none, but other than that, you would have no changes, no other changes to your JCL.
Yeah, and I think that is the recommended approach so that
Right.
customers don't need to make JCL changes and automatically
Yes.
their existing jobs will work in managed ACB environment.
Anshul, would you like to give us just a sneak peek about the fourth webinar that's going to come up?
Yeah, sure, Subhashish. So fourth one would be mainly targeted towards our admin products. I think majorly it will be our Delta IMS and Delta Plus, which is change manager for IMS team products, which obviously is impacted by IMS managed ACB because now control blocks are residing in directory instead of ACB live. So that will be the major discussion in that, followed by some of our other products like COPE, where we will talk about how it supports managed DCB. So we'll have two separate speaker. One will be for sysadmin products and one will be from the COPE products. So that's what we are going to cover in the next session, which will be the fourth one. And that will be on 21st of August, same time.